Oh, and welcome to the Spiciest Salsa episode 2. If you remember from last time, we have our winners Earth Defense Force 6, Nobody Wants to Die, Balatro, and Dredge. And this time they'll be facing off against Pentiment, Helldivers 2, Horizon Forbidden West, and Life is Strange Before the Storm. But our first matchup is going to be the lovely and talented Shaunasaur introducing Pentiment. So, Shauna, what is Pentiment?
Yeah, so Pentiment is a game where you play as an artist who is living in, I think, set in the 16 or 1500s. Yeah. You're living at an abbey and going about your day in this small town, and there's a murder, and you have to solve the murder, even though you're just an artist who happens to work there. Uh, yeah, it's a delightful little game. Should we introduce
Yeah,
the next one, or?
it's a great story game with a lot of heart, written by Obsidian, one of the best studios out there for writing. Sunless, remind us about the winner of the last round, Earth Defense Force 6.
Yeah, Earth Defense Force 6 is a over-the-shoulder third-person horde shooter set in the midst of a alien invasion and a few other things I won't spoil.
But for discussion, I think we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves because we should introduce everyone who's here.
Oh, yes. So we got the same folks as last time. You got Clever Diversion on the mic. Linearch Line over there. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Linearch Line. Same guy as that last episode, but brought some games and I'm stoked.
All right. We got the lovely and talented Shaunasaur. Say hi.
Hello. I was drawing cats and not listening while I was setting up today.
Always a
But
noble
that's
endeavor.
okay. I have my notes. We're good.
Yep. And Carbon Steed Dating. Go ahead and introduce yourself again.
Howdy, yeah, no, here again to defend some two narrative games. So looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm. And also everyone's favorite, the Sunless, the one, the only.
Hi, it's me again. Same as last time, here with the action.
Same
Yay.
Sunless flavor, same Sunless channel. All right. So we got where we're at. Let's go into a little bit of discussion. Why did you bring Pentiment this year as your game of the year, Shauna?
So, something that I always have as a parameter for bringing a game for Game of the Year is it a game that when I'm not playing that game, I am thinking about playing that game? And Pentiment was a game that I had just in my Steam library for a little while. My friend Caitlin got it for me, and they were like, dude, you're gonna love this game. And I just didn't for a while, and then the moment that I started playing it, I could not put it down for a week. And it was like basically like an exciting, wonderful novel. It is a very dialogue and like text heavy game, but I am dyslexic, and so I feel like if I get really, really into a very text heavy game, that is a very good sign that it's a good text heavy game, even if it's completely unvoiced. And Pentiment is, I guess, to describe more about the game itself rather than just why I brought it. So it's set in the fictional town of Tassing, which is set in the Holy Roman Empire, someplace between what is now Austria or southern Germany. And the setting is so well done. Like, it feels like you've actually been to this place, because a lot of story-driven games will have, like, sure, the setting will be there, but it's kind of just a set backdrop for the story that's happening around the setting.
Mm-hmm.
The story isn't really happening in the setting. And this game does an excellent job of making you feel like you understand the time and the place and the people who are there. Like, yes, thank you for the walkthrough. You get to know all the characters and just everyone who's living in this town. And I think part of what makes the flavor of it so good is that you get to see what they eat. You get to have dinner with different people. You get to have dinner with the nobles and have their fancy imported cheeses. And then you go and have dinner with the peasants, and you share a carrot between 3 of you. And but like, you see what they eat, you see their kids, you see how they go about their daily lives, the things that they think about, the things that they pray for and are angry about. Yeah, I feel like a lot of games don't care to do that about the side characters. They're like, yeah, their background, they're just decoration. But this game makes you feel like you know everyone, which is great for a mystery game where you have to figure out who did it. You have to go around and question all these villagers and figure out who's done the murder. But yeah, it's a very good historical game. I feel like I learned a lot while playing this. They also have a very good, what's it called? Like
Encyclopedia.
yeah, like an in-game encyclopedia and an in-game notebook, so it will tell you the definitions of all these things that it talks about, which is great because I was not raised Christian at all, and I had no idea what half of these things were. Like, to me, it felt like it was a fully fantasy setting because I just didn't know. I was like, what is this? There's different times of day for different prayers. I've never heard of that. What the heck?
Playing from the heathen perspective.
Yep, but that made it so much more cool because I got to learn about this thing that I had barely scratched the surface of before.
Yeah, I mean, not even mentioning how beautiful the game is.
Yeah, it has excellent art. The entire game is illustrated as if it is a illuminated manuscript from that time period, which is perfect because you're playing as an artist who's trying to do these illuminated manuscripts. And as an artist living in today's world, I found that there were interesting similarities between the artists doing these painstakingly detailed books by hand versus the printing press being invented around the same time period and contending with that versus artists of today contending with AI. It was a very interesting dialogue about art and culture. Yeah, also you can pet the dog and the cats, so always a plus for me on that one.
Yep. And there's an achievement for it.
Yeah, there's an achievement for petting all the animals. Excellent game. Let's see, what else did I have here? It was one of those games where when I finished playing it, I immediately went and got it for like 3 of my friends. And yes,
That's a mark of a great game.
Sterling review,
yes, one of
yeah.
those good games. And it's very, very fun to watch history nerds play through this game. Like, I deliberately got it for Mason so that I could watch him play through it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's fascinating. It's also one of my favorite games of the year, and I'll be rooting really hard for it. But anyway, like that is an excellent advocacy for Pentiment. Let's kick it back over to Sunless. Go ahead and remind us, why did you bring Earth Defense Force 6, and what are its attributes? You know, what are its finer points?
Well, I brought it because it's a good game. Why Earth Defense Force 6 in specific? There are a bunch of other shooters. Well, mostly because nothing else really does it like Earth Defense Force. It's a game that sacrifices everything on the altar of scale, which is not something you see a lot of the time these days. You know, you'll see a lot of shooters and a lot of action games where you're fighting 3 or 4 or 5 things at once on screen. EDF is hundreds, and the game runs rock solid the whole time. Yeah, it looks like it's out of the PS2 to PS3 era, but that's okay. You got 300 robots chasing you and Spider-Maning down some buildings. That's great. There's hundreds upon hundreds of weapons. There's like 150 missions, all of which are unique, with unique like enemy spawns and positions and objectives and tasks. So it's a huge game in terms of scale and quantity. The quality there is also a lot more than its graphics would suggest, with game feel that it feels really good to play it while you're doing it. All the guns have excellent punch and kickback and sound and impact especially. The game does a great thing where the little impact sparks and explosions that come off of projectiles hitting the ground are influenced by the velocity of the projectile, so faster ones kick dust along the trajectory of where you shot, which is just like not something you see a lot, even in significantly more fancy and AAA style games. But all of that was true for EDF 5. EDF 6 kicks it up a whole nother level by what it did with the story and the whys of why you're doing this. It is somewhat telling that the game officially, even though on Steam it's called EDF 6, officially it starts as EDF 5. It tells you this.
Wow.
It tells you as a sequel. It's a sequel to EDF 5, but just continues the story until you reach the end of the first set of missions, the first 10 or so, and you find yourself back in a pivotal mission that you played in EDF 5. You go back in time, and not only do you do that once, but this game is about time loops and cycles. So technically, according to the title screens that this game has, this is EDF 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Wow, amazing.
All at once. And it doesn't just do it with the title screens. The menu where you pick your missions changes background and music based on what time loop you're in. Your weapon or your armor style changes. There's even a moment where it's implied you're going through hundreds and hundreds of these loops where you have to go back into the mission select screen and find the specific mission with an anomaly. You don't do it in mission, you do it in the menu itself. Finding that mission, like, it shows up in the mission list as a series of question marks. And that's how
Wow.
you proceed in the
But
game,
see, I
is
love
to go and
when games
find it
can play
there.
with their own UI like that.
Mhm.
Dark Souls does it sometimes. What other game did it really well? I think it was,
I was going to say Inscription.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, the mark of a great game with just amazing confidence that is built up with its community over the years. All
I've
right.
yet to play it a lot, but I think One Shot also has this done in spades, and maybe one of the ones to look out for games that use, the experience of playing games, the
Mhm.
surrounding experience as a motif in the game itself.
Definitely.
I love when that stuff shows up in games where you don't expect it. Like, going into something like Inscription, you sort of expect that the game is going to throw weird shit at you. But going into a game like EDF, you really don't.
Yeah.
Similar to things like, my first big exposure was Warframe, that pulled this, where
Yeah.
UI elements became a gameplay element. And Nier Automata later on, though that's a bit more expected.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
always like to say you can never play Dark Souls for the first time again. There's something that's fresh when it, catches you by surprise when you come back to something you genuinely could never have expected.
Mhm.
All right, so let's open it up for naming of the round and discussion. Does anyone have any good ideas for names? I have one, but I'll wait.
I mean, these games could not be more different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
very curious to hear what your idea was.
My idea is time and space.
I could very much see that.
Sure. Yeah.
I like that.
I mean, I would like to suggest time and space for every round that we ever do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old Einsteinian
Both-
space time.
Both of these games include both time and space. What do they have in common? They're both, I think, set on planet Earth.
Yeah.
So
we've all
I think-
read Stephen Hawking's Black Hole book, right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I think
so,
these two games have surprises in both of them. One where you come for the gameplay and you get surprised by the writing and the story, and one where you come for the story and get surprised by the writing and the gameplay. And I think it's like last time we talked about Earth Defense Force. It is a motif that we talk about often. And I think it's really telling which ones we generally go for Game of the Year. I'm not entirely sure which one we usually argue for, but I mean, there's the argument where can both of these be told only as a game? Are these best in game format, and do they use the gameplay, the fact that they're a game to tell a unique story?
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot with Pentiment because of how narrative and text heavy it is. And like I said, I described it as a novel earlier. And like, could it have been a book? But I think it's definitely one of those games where if they had wanted it to be a book, it would have been a heck of a lot easier to just have written a book. But they wanted to make it a game. And so they made all of these different choices and different things that will, like, it's one of those games where you cannot save, you cannot, you only have one save file, you can't go back and redo something unless you want to start the game from scratch. Every single choice matters, even if it's not a lot, even if it's just like, all right, now the farmhand knows that, like, your favorite food, but nobody cares. But then there are things that do come up later, and things that will affect your roles, so kind of like Baldur's Gate in that way, where little choices affect the outcomes of the big things in ways that you don't expect.
Yeah, I will say my personal experience with Pentiment is they are very strict on no save scumming. Like, they
Yes.
auto save you into only one option right away, real fast.
That's great.
And that made me replay Act 1 all over again because something happened that I did not like. And I was like, oh no, this cannot stand. So I redid the last like 5 hours. It wasn't that long because I knew everything. It was like probably an hour and a half. But I did physically do that. And that's
And
also,
you
I
have a
think,
history of starting games again once you kind of have the
I
vibe
like
for
the
it.
beginnings of games. But in this case, I think it was a point towards the fact that it does offer such significant choice in both the corners of this world that you explore, which change your opinions and beliefs about the environment. You're exposed to basically completely different stories. I think 3 unique gameplays that you can do, and certain choices lock off other choices. So you cannot do them all in one playthrough.
Yeah.
The thing that go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, speaking of Mason replaying through Act 1, when I got to the end of Act 1, I was like, wow, this has been a really satisfying and good game. Like, I've enjoyed my time on this game. This has been good. Thanks, guys. And then Act 2 shows up, and I was like, oh, sweet, there's more, let's go. And there are 3 acts, and every single one of the acts I feel like could be its own little indie game.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I was just going to say too that something that I appreciate with both games is they both feel like they're taking advantage of being a game.
Yeah.
You know, like Pentiment with its art style, as well as like the multiple ways that you can interact with characters and kind of drive the narrative yourself. Which is, you know, you could have made this a book, but it would also have been like only one version of what this story could be. And then
Yeah.
with EDF, you know, it's the purest expression of essentially large scale gaming.
All right, so
Yeah.
if we're evenly matched on that front, do we want to find another metric that we can judge it by? Potentially.
I had one more thing that I was wondering about your experience with Pentiment, because I know in some other RPGs there's been the problem where the choice wheel in Mass Effect says like, question why you're getting this mission. And then the guy will just like punch him and be like, why am I getting this mission? And do you feel like the choices presented were presented in a way that was, loyal to how they were?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Cool.
it does one of the best in the entire industry of actually nailing what dialogue options should be in every game. They
Wow.
offer, far more variety than just like the nice one, the mean one, and the non-committal one or the
Mhm.
bland one.
Good.
All of them, when you have different backgrounds or uncover different pieces of information, those unique dialogue options, which I think is one of the big strengths of story games, you feel like you earn those extra options, like in Baldur's Gate 3 or something. they're so elegant and they're so beautiful, and the writing, as I said, Obsidian knocks it out of the park. There's a reason that this game was reviewed so highly when it first came out. And, I remember seeing its ad in the Game Awards, I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and I was floored. It's masterful in its artwork, and the drama of the writing itself is period appropriate at points, but also very fresh, and it feels like fresh modern writing.
Yeah, I feel like clearly this game isn't as in-depth as Baldur's Gate 3, but I found myself wanting for different dialogue options less in this one than I was in Baldur's Gate. Like, there were several times in Baldur's Gate where I was like, oh, I really don't like any of these options. This is really frustrating. Whereas this one, it does a good job of not being too generic about it, just like the good one and the bad one, but having options that make sense. And a thing that I like about it is that, so your character kind of has these characters or different psyches in his head, loosely Disco Elysium vibe, but less of different parts of his mind and more like different philosophies. And so if you're really stumped by something, if it's a really crucial decision and you need to think about something and you really aren't sure which option to choose, you can actually ask one of the philosophies in your head, and Socrates will come up and be like, oh, well, logically, I think you should do this actually. Or you could have the more moral philosopher in your mind come up, and she'll be like, well, let's think about this based off of everyone's emotions in the situation. Or you could have the jester show up and just pick the most chaotic thing. So it kind of helps you if you really are unsure what to choose, which I like.
And they're real historical figures that is the characters of your mind palace, and they're so great to just talk to. They're so entertaining. But yeah, do you want to start voting? Does everyone have a good sense of what they'd like to lean into?
I'm gonna wait and hear other people's thoughts on this because I feel unprepared.
All right. Cora, how about you? Or carbon speed dating?
I think I'm leaning towards Pentiment. I just think that very often you can see a game that comes out and you can sort of sell it on one idea, and even outside of it being a good story, the art style alone.
All right. How about you, Sunless? What do you think?
Well, I feel fairly obligated to vote for EDF 6.
Of course.
As both I brought it, and it was one of the most entertaining experiences I had last year. I was playing through that co-op for the first time. As I get the feeling this will probably be the last round for my dear EDF and its ant-killing ways. I must reiterate that it is in fact a fully co-op game through and through, with
my gosh.
excellent co-op experience, drop in, drop out, and no lobby issues or co-op issues whatsoever. So I'll add that to the list of why you should at least play this game, even if it isn't Game of the Year.
Oh yeah,
but yeah,
I definitely
one up
am
for
planning on
EDF
playing it.
6.
It's on my list. Although I want to finish 5 first before doing 6.
You should, honestly, it is a point against 6 that you need to finish 5 first.
Right.
To really make the plots hit.
All right. Shaunasaur?
I'm voting for Pentiment. I love this game a lot.
Yeah.
It definitely, even though I played it very early on in the year, I think I played it in January and February, I was thinking about it probably every other month of the year. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm also going to have to go for Pentiment, but the Earth Defense Force is really, really strong also in just a gameplay fun experience that you will remember for the rest of your life, probably. Pentiment, it's very hard for me not to vote for the history game on the table, partly because the way that Pentiment treats history is so amazingly faithful to how history should be taught and remembered in the real world. They go into the economic struggles of peasants at the time. They make it eminently approachable and relatable. And the writing alone is beyond top tier. It's a full masterclass. And it genuinely surprised me. It went in directions and places I never thought it would go, and it's so good at everything that it tries to do. I will say I think the scope is smaller though than Earth Defense Force. But yeah, it's just history. It's such good history. All right.
All
What
right.
do you think, Line?
So I'm hearing Shaunosaur Pentiment, Clever Diversion Pentiment,
Carbon Speed
Carbon
Dating
Speed
Pentiment
Dating
as well.
Pentiment.
Yep.
Earth Defense Force is rather sunless, and it's a good thing that we're an odd number here, because I have to give it to Pentiment as well. Man, it seems like I love games like roguelikes that make you make difficult decisions and make you stick with them. Because I think a game is made up with what it asks
It's
from you.
frustrating, but also satisfying at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah, because I remember one of the most important reasons why I didn't end up liking any of the Bethesda games was because it didn't ask me to follow up with my decisions or to really care or be afraid of my own choices.
Mhm.
And it sounds like Pentiment does ask that of me, and I think that's really beautiful and important for games that I like. So yeah, I'm gonna update the bracket with Pentiment with 4 votes and Earth Defense Force with 1, which brings Pentiment to the winner of the round. And also reminder that we're likely all gonna play Earth Defense Force at some point. These scores, like, talk about how I'd like to hear Clever Diversion's thoughts on the judgments of these Game of the Year posts, because man, does it
Oh yeah.
it
This
certainly
is
doesn't mean I hate them.
a fraught and contested year all around. I think each of these rounds are some of the closest that we've had. And last year was no cakewalk either.
Mhm.
But I mean, I genuinely am close to just installing and playing Earth Defense Force 5 after this. It looks so fun. Just watching the gameplay, like all the guns look really fun to shoot, and it's just like a faithful 2000s game.
Yeah.
And I miss
This
that.
guy's wielding a lightning homing rifle with a huge jetpack.
Yeah, I'm
killing-
watching a jetpack girl with a plasma cannon right now.
Yeah, that's
And just,
great.
like, giant frogs full of purple goo.
The size of skyscrapers that
Yeah.
Excuse me.
their
excuse
limbs
me,
come
frogs?
off. Like it's
Those look just
relational
like people.
damage, which I always love.
Their limbs come off. It's so good.
All right,
Perfect.
Running joke in EDF. The frog aliens look just like people. They have 2 arms and 2 legs and a head, and they use
Just like
tools.
us.
They're
it's
just like
uncanny.
us.
Just like
It's
us.
uncanny. I can't even shoot at them. They look like humans.
Yep. Wow.
God, like it has a sense of humor too. Ah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Very
really
funny.
charming. It's one of the most charming, like, I think, was it the name of the last round is like, it's gamers games. Like
Mhm.
it's a game for the industry. It's like a
Yeah.
love letter to certain genres. All right, so let's move
the
on
gamer's game.
because we got to keep going.
Do we have a better name for that round?
Low-key, I really like Time and Space. I actually
Yeah,
really,
no.
I really like
Yeah.
Time and Space.
I feel really bad for phrasing that question like I did,
No, you're
did
okay.
just now. It made
No,
me
it's all
sound
good.
so
It
harsh.
We'll give you a
Excuse
pass
me.
this time around.
Excuse me, Clever Diversion, did we have a good idea?
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, maybe next year you can host it, and then that'll be, we can come up with names in
Welcome back to Time and Space Salsa.
time and space. We each brought our time, and we each brought our space. All right, so moving swiftly along to the next round. Congratulations to Pentiment. We got Nobody Wants to Die and Helldivers 2. A contested
Nice.
round to be sure. All right. Carbon Speed Dating. Why don't you remind us the winner of last round, Nobody Wants to Die?
Yeah, so Nobody Wants to Die is a cyberpunk sort of time manipulation narrative game that immerses you in this really well built out sort of alternate future. So it's basically still 1920s, but it's also in the future.
I love that.
So it's a very interesting take on the cyberpunk genre if you wanted to get outside of more traditional views of cyberpunk, where it's, you know, very punky, I guess, and more Mad Maxy. If you want like a slightly different take on that genre, I think it's a great example of that. Not to mention, the writing's very funny. There's some good back and forth between a couple of the characters. Very immersive world. I also wanted to bring it because it was a game that really snuck under the radar for me. Like, I love this genre of narrative games, and somehow I had missed it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, so I wanted to have an opportunity to share it with folks. It's a fun game too, because every time I show the trailer to somebody, they went, "Wow, I can't wait to play that."
And
But-
also, they also say, "I can't believe I didn't know about this. I can't believe
Yeah.
I missed this."
Full
That-
disclosure,
I had
I
the
spent
exact same.
I spent all of today as this game, a full walkthrough, full let's play of it as my second monitor screen
Yeah.
right now at work. It was a wild ride, and the writing was incredible. But we'll get into that in the discussions. Who brought
Yeah.
Helldivers?
That was me. So
right.
Helldivers 2 is so I played a lot of Helldivers 1, which was the draw for me was an isometric multiplayer co-op game from the creators of Magicka. And I loved it because of its wonderful celebration of friendly fire, I suppose, because everything you did had the possibility of killing yourself or your friends, and it just made for this hectic, clumsy, but comedic presentation of the experience it was trying to tell.
And was it
was,
charming? Did it endear itself to you?
It was charming, and it had time and space, which are two of my favorite aspects in games. And
So many things. Really.
the sequel to it, I knew I was excited for Helldivers 2, and I never dreamed that it would become, you know, one of the most notable releases of 2024, in my opinion. It turned into a drastically different third-person action shooter. So instead of being that top-down perspective, you were in a camera over the shoulder of your character, and it still kept that same Starship Troopers, you know, making fun of the military industrial complex with amazing comedy, but at the same time portraying action scenes just like they were out of a film. Like, you watch people play this game and you feel like not only do you feel the stress that they're feeling in the wild situations that they were put into, but also it looks really cool and it feels good to play with all of this firepower that they give you, despite the fact that you might hate your friends with that firepower. Helldivers 2 is most importantly 4-player co-op, and it's only cooperative. And it is a treat to play cooperatively. I think one thing we might mention is that we had a little bit of difficulty when it first came out, but that's not the case now. And the fact that if I see Mason, if I see Clever Diversion, shoot, I just gave it away. If I
It's
see
all
Clever
good.
Diversion playing
I think it's fine.
when I come home, all I have to do is click on that name, and no matter where he's at in the mission that he's playing, I drop right in beside him and am immediately playing with him. I think it's great. I think it's one of the best multiplayer experiences I've ever seen, aside from
Alright.
PUBG.
Well, that's a great introduction.
Yeah.
Do we want to do a general discussion on the finer points of Nobody Wants to Die? You want to lead us
Definitely.
off, Carbon Speed Dating?
Yeah, I mean, since last session, I had been thinking about like what this game had been reminding me of. So like I had played the game, and it's like it's very much its own thing. It's like this cyberpunk inspired, ultra. How do I phrase this? Like, literally, the rich eat other people by like taking over their bodies. Like quite literally, like if you're rich enough, you can afford to buy a new body, where the title comes from. And if you're too poor, you sell your body. But I've been trying to figure out what this game it reminded me of, and strangely enough, the game that it reminded me of most was Firewatch, and not for the plot specifically, but there's a big core of the storyline. It revolves around you as the main character communicating with your partner over radio, and
nice.
getting to know them as being a major part of the narrative. Makes it feel, even with the small cast that it has, I think there's only like a handful of, characters that have any speaking roles, it still feels like a very fleshed out world.
Yeah, I was really impressed by both the voice acting and just the overall art design of every single thing in this game. Feels like it fits in the world, is a great reimagining of that 1920s, 1930s wealth and class disparity. I think it's perfectly situated in the cyberpunk genre. It made me want to go back and watch Altered Carbon.
Yeah.
It was really surprising with, even though the gameplay was, kind of like Firewatch, it's kind of like walk around and click on stuff. I think there was enough tools and techniques that you have, a little UV light. You are prompted by your secretary, or I guess contact point liaison back at headquarters, to do certain things at certain times, which I think is really helpful for gamers of all experience levels. I certainly appreciate when, especially in a detective game, if I just miss something, I do, that's not you being bad at first-person shooters. That's just you miss something.
Yeah.
So I found it to be highly impressive.
Yeah, and I get the impression, too, that it's like a very tightly made game. Like, they had a very clear vision in mind when they were working on the game, and it comes through really well, visually, narratively. It also has these, because of the way that the narrative, the choice elements in the game work, it does have a few elements that can be fun setups for, like, unintentionally funny moments.
Yeah.
Where, like, you as a character are doing something very strange in the universe, and other characters comment on that.
Yeah,
like, one of the first choices you can make in the game is, with no prompting whatsoever, you can just decide to destroy evidence.
Yeah. It's just,
and it's just like, no one asked you to do that, but you can if you'd like.
It has that wry, dark humor of noir, like from movies and TV, radio shows.
Yeah, I also felt like I could get into the story a little bit better than I was able to get into with Cyberpunk 2077, even though they're relatively similar genres, just because I thought that the aesthetic worked a little bit more for me. I liked that it does have a bit of that 1920s, like, we're wrapping up the party sort of energy to it, like, very dark. It's why I think that genre and the time setting and everything worked so well with Cyberpunk, but also specifically with noir. Like, it was a good pairing.
Absolutely. All right. So, what do you think? Let's crack it open for discussion and naming. This round, I think I'm going to go with Time and Space.
I had one. That's pretty good. I have one that I thought would work. Death as Propaganda.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, death plays a pretty major role. Like I said, in Nobody Wants to Die, the entire point is that you can sort of live forever if you have enough money. Death also has a very immediate cost for characters that have less money or no money, obviously. And not even death so much as, like, hey, if you don't have enough money, your body will just be sold out from under you.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Your body belongs to the state.
Yeah, there's
Which, honestly,
one of the opening
be the
has
title, Your Body Belongs to the State, because for Helldivers,
hey, that works too.
yeah.
Well, nobody died. No Helldiver has ever died, though.
It's true.
No, they.
Yeah.
But every Helldiver lost on mission is an unspeakable tragedy.
Yeah, but also no
Unspeakable.
Helldiver has ever been
like
lost.
this that the writing in Helldivers is incredible because it walks the fine line between something you feel like you've heard before said very seriously, and it brings it just into contrast with what you know to actually be happening. And Helldivers has this beautiful propaganda of its own, which talks about militarism in a way that I think is far healthier than how other games talk about militarism. There's a great video from Polygon where I believe it's Pat who talks about how war has been made a circus by Call of Duty.
Yeah, the exact title is How Call of Duty Made War into a Circus, and it's about militainment, and it is one of the most beautiful pieces I've ever seen.
It's a great video, and I think that this is responsible in its love of firearms and big explosions, because it also recognizes and highlights how this affects the world as a whole. It gives you glimpses not into these noble lives that are to be lauded, but it shows you how that image is being manipulated in ways that sure, you feel like you're doing great things, but it's very clear in the satire that it's Helldivers.
I want to share a experience that I had, I think last month, when I finally talked to all of the voice lines of your technical officer, the technician who's like building all of your turrets. And she said she's really excited about her monthly or yearly cost of living increase for merit, because now she can afford to rent the tools that she wants to be able to work overtime. And that just kind of like hurt me inside, like as a human on this planet.
I mean, parody is probably the hardest genre you could ever attempt to do, because it requires you to have a deep understanding of your own genre, but also the ways to twist that and expose it for the elements like you were talking about, like the over militarization of not even just video games. Like, this is a conversation you could have about movies, and it's a very hard genre, and they do such a great job expressing it. Like,
it's a theme I have spent most of my academic life researching and getting enough expertise to speak exactly about, and just to see that line come through so clearly, it's a masterclass in writing. I mean, I think both of these games are. That's just why it's so difficult. Is like their setting so beautifully meshes with their writing, and their gameplay reinforces it. Like, it's in.
Speaking of reinforcing gameplay, the other thing that I wanted to bring up about Helldivers 2 was the ongoing support for this title.
Oh yeah,
because Helldivers 2 has continuously come out with things that legitimately change the game in new and exciting ways. And they foreshadow them. Playing this game is like being part of a story that's being told through hundreds to thousands of people playing at the same time as you.
Well, the events of the players are reflected in the lore, which I think is amazing. Yeah.
Based on whether or not you, as an entire player base, not you as an individual player, but the entire community that is playing this game, can either succeed or fail on, things that are trying to be done in the world as a whole.
If it goes to later rounds, I do want to talk about that briefly as like part of showcasing part of its weakness at a certain amount, because the treatment or handling of that factor, I think, has experienced some criticism from the community. Certainly one of our friends was somewhat disappointed by the fact that they never really let you win, to keep it going, and it can feel a little bit disingenuous, but that also feeds into the lore of the president of Super Earth wanting to keep an eternal war going. Because
when you look closely, it is in this government's best interest to continue these fights. They are making money. There's a huge source of energy from one of the like they are farming and exploiting a lot of the resources that you are
How
cleaning
better
up after.
to unify a
Um,
population and quell dissent than to unify them against a foreign enemy?
I mean,
they
this is
work all of these criticisms into the lore in a good way. But I definitely do see how, as a video game, it is kind of a bummer that
It's a feel bad.
the way that has to be handled.
I suppose, but I also think that I think that would kind of defeat the point of this narrative they're telling you. It's like you can't both have your cake of war is bad and also war is great because you can win.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
think that works in terms of
And-
like I understand where that frustration comes from, but I don't think I don't think that's a unintentional like element. I think that's part of the recipe.
Exactly.
And
like,
I
as
feel-
a piece of art for Helldivers, like it needs to be a satire and like, yeah, show that war is bad and make it frustrating intentionally in a way that works for the satirical element.
Yeah, and I feel I have to mention that you absolutely can win in the short term, right? Like I don't think there's ever going to be a point where we Helldive so good that the game turns off.
Yeah.
But there are absolutely points where if we defeat enough of, especially the Illuminate, the purple guys, enough, they completely disappear from the map for
Are
several
those
days.
just
zombies? Are
Yeah.
those zombies?
Yeah, those
Yep.
are the vote
Okay.
list.
Yeah.
We have defeated the Illuminate as of I checked in yesterday, and there are no more Illuminate on the map.
Nice.
See, that's great.
I
That's
mean,
great. I
victory.
like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think maybe in later rounds, if it survives to it, but we could talk about just how much of a year this 2024 was for Helldivers. It went to many
yeah.
different places. And to
Something-
transition to voting, I think it's a powerhouse of a game that year. I think it defined that year for me personally, and that's why I personally have to vote for it in this round.
Certainly a good reason as a literal defining game for the game of the
I
year.
just-
Yeah.
it gave me the joy that I felt when Halo 2 launched. That like it made me feel like a 15-year-old, male teenager getting all of your friends together to accomplish a goal and do a task. And like it makes everyone feel useful to the team, which is really hard to do. It allows for unique interactions with like the shielding that Lion Arc Line brings to the table. Everyone has a different build or philosophy about what they think is good, and it just gives that sense of build identity. And like, I mean, that's what I love the most about all games is like you can feel like you're really good at the sniper or the rocket launcher, and like or like Dixon who brings a bunch of turrets or like a full melee build for my brother. Baldur, like it's the emotions of pure gaming come through so strong in Helldivers.
I think I'm going to agree there. Helldivers brought me a game that I could play with all of my friends, which I'd been missing for a long time. I think the last time I saw that was PUBG, and you can listen to a couple years ago where I talk about that. And to even compare it to my love of how much it asked from me and how accessible it was to play with my friends, that's why I'm going to vote for Helldivers as well.
I'll also say the difficulty levels were an inspired choice in Helldivers. I think that was a key part of its success, is having the right difficulty for everybody.
Mm-hmm. I will also definitely be casting my vote for Helldivers for a lot of similar reasons. It, in many ways, is the game that defined, especially like the action genre in 2024. It dominated every discussion. It dropped basically out of nowhere and exploded so hard that like servers were failing for weeks.
Yeah, the
because they
developers
just-
could never have anticipated the crazy success that it found and were caught
I think it was-
flat-footed and stunned.
I think it was something like 8 to 20 times their estimated player base.
Wow.
Jeez.
So we can forgive them a few weeks of issues. But something I want to bring up about it, just briefly, and we can talk more about it in later rounds. But this game is so sick. Like, just to play, it's so cool. Every single scene of combat is a equivalent to a scripted event at the finale of another
And they
action
gave
game.
us warthogs. They gave us cars.
Yeah, they gave us terrible cars and jetpacks you can't turn off and flamethrowers that light you on fire and a gun that kills you and another gun that kills you to shoot
And a
and
nuke that you can carry as a backpack.
And
A
you can
backpack
set off
nuke
your
that you
friend's
don't have
backpack
to
without them
drop.
knowing.
That other people can activate without you knowing. Your friend
Dude.
can walk up to it and then press the button on your backpack nuke and then
turrets,
run. And you're
and
like, where
turrets
are you
that don't
going?
have friendly fire and drone grenades that don't give a shit if you're in their blast radius. It's just
Yeah, I
looking
think
at it,
that's
looking
another
at every
feather
minute is incredible.
in its hat that I don't think a game could have made me like Friendly Fire. And then Helldivers did. You know, like in Call of Duty or Apex Legends, like Friendly Fire sucks. Like it's a feel bad moment in so many ways. And in Helldivers, it just has that wry sense of Starship Troopers irony that it turns it, and it is still annoying, but you laugh it off. And that was a huge psychological win, I think, for the gaming community that they really needed to kind of erase toxicity.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that I'm also probably going to vote for I'm going to vote for Helldivers this round. Not to say that Nobody Wants to Die isn't great, and I think that everyone should play it. But I remember when the big Game Awards came out at the end of last year, thinking that Helldivers got kind of snubbed. Like, I remember thinking that it's a great example of a game that we've talked about this before, but like that suffers from a recency bias where it came out in like, I don't know, the first few months of the year, and I think that just by the time the end of the year rolled around, other things had just come out that had grabbed people's attention a little more.
I completely
But I
agree.
think, yeah, I think that not only that, but its staying power. Like it was, I think it didn't help that I think it was going through some growing pains around the time when the voting was happening.
Yeah, it was
But
one of its
even
hardest
s-
points.
Yeah, even still, I think that it defined the year a lot more than any other game that they mentioned on that stage. Like it was the game that not only pushed like the genre forward, but also just gave a new kind of experience for folks.
I'm going to play it tomorrow. Like,
Hey.
I hope you guys will join me.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
I feel like voting for this is interesting for me because Nobody Wants to Die is definitely the game of these two that I am most likely to play and plan on playing soon because it looks fantastic and very much like my type of game. Helldivers, I will probably never play, but I'm still going to vote for it because I feel like I agree, like it was such a crucial game of the year. And I personally can't think of Helldivers without thinking about the political impact that it had right around when it came out. And I think it was like the producers or publishers of the game did something where the game was no longer playable in Ukraine.
Yes.
And the entire community rioted. People were like leaving 1-star Steam reviews left and right and just like completely trashed the game even though they love this game. And it was enough like activism to make the publishers change their mind.
I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that was the game's fault. That
No,
was
No.
It wasn't the game's
Yeah.
fault, and it wasn't the
was
studio that made its fault.
Sony
It was Sony.
requiring everyone to have a Sony account, which wasn't accessible in certain countries. One of those countries was Ukraine. And because of the theme and the community that had been built of cooperative action around freedom and liberty and justice, that community rioted. And it was very significant, and I participated in it for those 2 weeks. I left my own, negative Steam review with all of the list of all of the countries that would not be able to play the game if this change went through. And Sony backpedaled. I don't know if it
What's
was permanent. I think I saw another video months later that said like they're trying to do it again in a different way. But at least there was that organization of community, which I think is important.
Yeah, especially since it was relatively recent after the game came out. And for a game about teamwork and freedom and, you know,
Was Helldivers
military propaganda. What was that?
Was Helldivers the one where like they made that Steam review into like a cape or something you could
Yes.
wear
They
in
were
the game?
going to. We haven't gotten the cape yet.
Okay.
But there is an
company-
official design for the.
Okay.
Yeah, the company
voting
released a
chart.
design on social media, but I don't know if Sony likes that as much as the company likes it.
Yep.
Sure. No, I'm just saying. Like, I will say that I think it's important to bring up that is not really something that the game had any say in. Like, that's
Oh,
not
yeah.
the developer. That's not the game.
Yeah.
Publishers are gonna publish her.
Yeah, which is like definitely I think a point in favor of this game is because the people who made the game were also wanting their even if they got negative Steam reviews, they were wanting their community to backlash against this because where was this game made? It was
Norway.
Norway, yeah. And they also very much want to support Ukraine in any way that they can.
Yeah, Norway especially.
Yeah, Norway very, very much. And so even though it's not my type of game and I may never play it myself, the political and social impact of this game just resonates so hard, and I love the satire of it, and just the thoughts that it makes people think are very important right now.
All right, so well, the voting is in, but did we have a real name for the round?
I really liked Carbon Speed Dating's idea of what was it? The state owns your body,
Oh,
or
yeah.
your body belongs to the
That's-
state.
That wasn't mine, but I like that one a lot.
I
Death
think
is
that's
Propaganda. I really enjoyed.
Oh, Death is Propaganda is so good though too.
That's the one I have written down here, and
I'm good with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
let's do
fine
that
with
one.
that.
Yeah.
We'll save the body being owned by the state for later rounds.
I mean, it'll come up probably again for Helldivers. We'll see
Yeah.
which one that goes up against next time.
And
Yeah.
Dredge.
Red.
All right. So great. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. This one is tough because I'm looking at the Let's Play for No One Wants to Die, and it is approachable. I think it's less than 10 hours, right?
Yeah, no, it's a very short game. Yeah.
All
That-
right. So
Settles it. Helldivers 2 is the winner.
Yeah.
of
yes,
this round.
Helldivers 2 is the resounding winner for this second round. All right, but let's move swiftly on to the next. We got
All right.
Horizon Forbidden West versus Balatro.
All right.
All right,
Horizon
some
Forbidden
games-
West.
Very different, I would say. Perhaps disparate experiences overall.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
Sunless, tell us
Yes.
about Horizon Forbidden West.
yes, Horizon Forbidden West, the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, is a third-person action adventure starring a young lady in a post-robot apocalypse, where she fights robots with a bow and spear, talks to people who have issues, solves them, and generally tries to make the world a better place.
And ignoring her
Uh,
own issues. You forgot that
And
part.
I did ignore the fart where she spends most of the game pointedly ignoring her own issues. It is was a former sort of Sony PlayStation exclusive, now brought also to PC. And it is a gorgeous, beautiful open world AAA, high fidelity, no costs spared, true next gen experience in a whole number of ways. But I'll be excited to talk more in detail in a bit.
Would you call it a powerhouse?
It is absolutely a powerhouse.
Wonderful. All right, so who bought Balatro last time? Was that Line Klein?
That would be me.
All right, go ahead and remind us, what is Balatro and why'd you bring it?
Balatro is very similar to Horizon Zero Dawn in several ways. It's a computer game, and it has colors.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Love that.
But the
Both games.
things where it differ is Balatro is a roguelike. You know, I have a history of bringing roguelikes where every run is different and it's so well suited to a bus. And it is a roguelike based on poker kind of motifs.
Nice. All right. Well, let's do a bit of discussion on Horizon Forbidden West. What are its finer points?
Yeah, so Horizon Forbidden West is a true next-gen game. It's expansive, it's beautiful, it's very well written, it's very well acted, it's very well mocapped. The action is incredible, the game is phenomenal, phenomenal
Art
to play.
direction.
The art direction is one of the best across most IPs in general. I mean, you could just look at these beautiful animal robots on this trailer. The trailer is basically true to the game in terms of how it looks.
I want some of the Lego figures of these robots.
Oh my god, yes.
Oh, that'd be so good.
It's the
Lego
the design
yeah.
of these characters and these monsters and these, things that you can interact with is unique and something I haven't seen before.
Yeah,
I also
and
finish what you're going to say.
yeah, I was just gonna say that great design translates directly into gameplay because most of your fights against these monsters aren't like just chipping away at a health pool, but you're very carefully and with precision dismantling the machine part by part and bit by bit. From shooting off guns so they can't shoot, picking those guns back up and using them to destroy the robot itself, to crippling legs and removing armor pieces to access weak points. It keeps you constantly engaged through this, what is essentially a game almost exclusively about boss fights. But those bosses are just wandering the world and you can avoid or attack or in some cases even ride them.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, I was just going to mention too that I would like to bring up the fact of how well it works as a sequel as well. Like it's a hard game. The original one was when you first played it, I remember thinking this is going to be a hard game to kind of one up in a sequel, and they did such a marvelous job with it, both in terms of characters as well as new ideas that they're exploring, new locations, bringing in interesting new large scale problems to be solving.
Absolutely.
And you can swim in this one, which is always a plus.
Yes, even underwater. You can go underwater. It's great.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, in the first game, they had a very easy job with Aloy, where she gets to be Aloy, the main character. She gets to be sort of roughly new to the world, outside of being an experienced hunter. So, how much does she know about the societies that she's walking into and these people? She, gets things explained to her a lot, and despite her blinding competence, gets to still be sort of a newbie in a number of ways. This game had a much harder task to accomplish, where she's now an established hero, basically, and a well-known warrior across most of the known continent.
And specifically for things you've, as the player, have done. So it feels very rewarding in that way. It's like, yeah, you were the one that defended this city. You were the one that killed this unkillable thing. So you are, as your character, part of the new lore in the sequel.
Exactly, and they nail it so well, just to further refining her character and what she needs to be and how she feels about her new position as, goddess of the spear, essentially, in this new world. And how other characters relate to her and relate to her tales and how many of them are legitimate friends and all of that. And it's like, if you must look past the beautiful robot dinosaurs for a reason to play this game, you also have exquisite character work and very good writing.
Yeah. All right.
And a really compelling story.
Well,
Mhm.
In terms of, it was specifically for writing, but also character, yeah.
at this point, let's open it up to some discussion and maybe some naming of the round with a talk about the best part of Balatro.
Ooh, can I say a name?
Sure.
Yeah.
They both have cards in them, I guess.
Yeah, they both got cards.
They both got cards.
I
It's
mean,
just like
in
there is a
equal
mini game.
measure.
Well, there is a mini game in the new Horizon that, if I remember right, Rather Sunless, you did largely ignore.
I completely
But
ignored
it's
it. Yes.
there.
It is there. Unfortunately, I hate to quash your dreams, but it is a miniatures game and not a card
Oh,
game.
I guess you're. Oh no, you're right. I was thinking of more like it was more of like
Yeah.
a Gwent thing. No,
So
you're
a
totally
true
right.
It's
mini
Warhammer.
It's more
gamer.
like a chess game, like in visually speaking. Ah,
Mhm.
they're
Yeah, so I mean, I'll just say like
What about look at this Joker?
I've been playing through the first game for Horizon most of this year, and it's absolutely fantastic. I have had a bit of a snag on it, but through no fault of its own. It's just I got really, really into Morrowind again, which is fair. But I think, at the Video Game Awards, it was interesting to see Balatro, the televised ones in December, to see Balatro share the stage with such an accomplished game. I think
I do
Balatro developed by
wonder-
one person, and
Yeah.
Horizon Forbidden West representing the cumulative experience of most of America's gaming, right? It's an American game, right?
Is it? Maybe.
I
could
do
look it up.
wonder though, and this is what I was mentioning a bit with Helldivers earlier, though, if Balatro would have been on that stage if it had come out like even a month earlier. Because I do think
Sure.
that it happened to be. It's not to say that it's not a great game, but I think that it was just the game everyone was sort of playing that week.
But
I have
didn't
to
Balatro
say,
come out in
after-
like February?
I mean, like when it got really popular, I should say.
Oh,
It had
yeah,
been
yeah.
I
around
remember
for a
it through the
bit.
summer.
Yeah, it had been technically around, but very often games and just art in general can reach a bit of a critical mass where suddenly
Mhm.
everyone's the only thing anyone's talking about.
Yeah.
To real quick answer your question before we move on. Guerrilla Games, the developer of Horizon Forbidden West, is Dutch.
Oh, yeah, that sounds familiar.
Amsterdam. All right, never mind. Go Amsterdam then. Good job.
Oh yeah. Well, it's still very much an example of what the entire modern gaming scene can do for a video game.
I have to say, after last time when we talked about Balatro, because it has been one of the games that I've played most of over
yeah.
the course of 2024. I have had to do a 4 hours of commuting every day, and I haven't been able to play Horizon Forbidden West Horizon Forbidden
Yeah,
West.
kind of hard to play
it's-
on the bus.
It's
It might work on the Switch, or not the Switch, the
the Steam
handheld one.
Deck.
Yeah, it might.
And I love my Steam Deck, but really, like, there is a type of game that makes it wonderful to play on a phone, and I never thought I'd be as much of a phone gamer, I guess evangelist for this sort of thing, but I find myself in that position, and one of these games is easy to pick up and play, and they're both full gaming experiences, but one is so accessible. And after last time we talked about it, I kind of felt a little bad for bringing it for my game of the year, because I felt that I felt that there was some underwhelming warmth towards it last time, and I kind of got caught up in that, and I got a little disillusioned with Balatro. And that was until I talked to someone else who is playing Balatro and still going strong, and they told me that they were playing Balatro in ways that I couldn't dream of, that I never realized you could. And it revitalized my my trust that there's a lot there. There is a depth to Balatro that even with all that I've played it, I haven't been able to touch yet, and I'm excited to unlock that sort of stuff.
To support that
Yeah.
point, the first video game channel that I found about Balatro when I was like, what is this? How do I play? I keep losing. Why? Was called Balatro University. And it is very, very in depth. and it does a great job of showcasing the true value of this $5 game that can be played anywhere at any time. So I think that's a very strong point in its defense, because, you know, as I said earlier, Horizon, as beautiful and amazing as it is that full sit down on the couch and plant yourself there for 2.5 hours to 3 hours. And that's just not always the energy level that I have anymore in life as I get older.
I will say one thing too in Balattra's favor, which was one of the funniest experiences I had with gaming recently was trying to explain Balatro to my sister.
That's very good.
So I was like, no, like let's go. Let me pull it up on my iPad. I'll show it to you. It makes way more sense when I do that.
I also tried to show someone tell someone about Balatro. Did not work. You have to show people.
You do.
It just doesn't work otherwise. Yeah, that's really all I have to add on Balatro. I struggle with my vote on this one because I think that I think Horizon Forbidden West got this weird online presence that I wasn't fully aware of, but I got the impression was not from people who played the game.
Which one are you referring to? I'm sorry.
I think that for Horizon Forbidden West, I feel like it got a lot of media coverage for with a lot of assumptions behind it. And it all of the things that I've seen for Horizon Forbidden West have not been positive. They've been very dismissive of it. And I think some of it is based on some people not liking how the main character looks, and some of it is critiques on the writing. And not having played it myself, I was surprised to hear such a sterling review from all of my friends who have played it. And I think that's a reminder that I trust my friends with game reviews more than I do a lot of people.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I feel like Horizon is a great game that people aren't playing for only bad reasons. And I really appreciate that the game developers have not taken any of those bad faith criticisms to heart. Like, they've been staying wholeheartedly with their own story, with their own characters, and having fun with that. I am not as aware of, outside of it being game with woman, I don't want to play woman. I don't know what other criticisms you could have about the game in that regard, at least, because I had no problems with I thought the narrative was excellent.
But what if she wasn't straight, even though she was white?
Bum, bum, bum.
Have you played? Have you played
the game?
Oh yeah. The game. Yeah.
But my delicate masculine sensibilities, how could I survive a not straight character?
First and foremost, one of the main characterizations of the character is her unwillingness to even accept relatively good friendships into her life, let alone her willingness to have romantic relationships, and that being part of her arc is really interesting and fun and satisfying. And I don't know, it feels there. I remember when Rather Sun was playing this, thinking, "Wow, this is such an amazing game," and there are people that are going to miss out on this because of their weird internal problems that have nothing to do with the game, and are going to keep them from experiencing great art.
It's a tragedy. All right, maybe a name for the round could be it's good. On two of the most successful games of 2024. That's the thing, is these both games represent some of the largest successes in gaming that's possible to have, both as the standalone single developer hit, that powerhouse that Balatro was, and a AAA title finally getting it right in a huge way, like really a tour de force, like a victory lap for the whole series after the first one did so great. And in transition to voting, it's going to be very hard for me not to vote for Horizon Zero Forbidden West in every one of the rounds, because it's exactly the combat system that I've always been asking for, which is part and location based. Also, I'm having so much fun with the first one, and the art design and the world and the themes and the writing and the music are all incredible. It's everything I'd hoped it would be, and it restored my faith in AAA gaming again.
Wow.
Like, I mean, partly after I came to this after playing Dragon's Dogma 2, which, you know, for all of its fine points, it had some glaring weaknesses that I was like, if this is the modern state of gaming, maybe it needs a few more minutes in the oven. And then Horizon is like, no, we just win. We just got it all good right away. It's great.
Yeah, you can just release bangers, you know?
Yeah. You could just only release the best games that have ever been made.
As a game developer, I feel obligated to point out it's not that easy. Oh my god. I think it's a miracle.
I mean, the fact that Horizon can exist, I mean, I say this for most of the big budget games, is not only it exists, it ran great. I don't remember it having a single. I mean, do you remember encountering a single bug?
I got stuck on Geo once.
Okay, I don't
Oh,
remember
no.
that, but that's, yeah. I'm just saying this
no.
because you've just finished the most recent Spider-Man game, and that had some pretty rough bugs in it, even though it was a marvelous game.
It turned
and the
off
fact
your
that
whole
Horizon,
computer from a different room.
Dang.
Yeah,
Next year, here's some things about Spider-Man 2 PC port.
yeah, but given that Horizon is also, if I remember right, a PC2 port, it ran marvelous. It was.
Oh yeah.
I mean, outside of sometimes having to sit there while it was compiling shaders at the beginning when you first install it, it was literally a feat of technology that I don't know how it's possible.
In my long tradition of voting for games that made me cry, Horizon made me cry. Balatro hasn't made me cry yet. And for the right reasons.
Hey, I mean, maybe you just got to get really into Balatro.
Yeah,
You'll get there.
there's some heartbreaking moments.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Shaunasaur? Where's your heart on this one?
I am still pretty torn. I think my reasoning for being torn is that I think that Horizon Forbidden West is a marvelous game. I love the artistry of it. I love the pieces of it that I've watched Rather Sunless play. The creature design and the lore are all so interesting and fantastic. I mean, I've only just scraped the surface of the lore, but it's so intriguing, and I want to know more about this world and about these people and about this landscape and these creatures. And then Balatro is just a silly little game. But at the same time, I feel like it more like colored 2024 for me, because it was a game that throughout the first half of 2024, if somebody said, oh yeah, I'm playing this weird little game called Balatro, everybody'd be like, what's that? That's so weird. Or if somebody found somebody else who played it, people would immediately start talking about this fun, silly little game. And then for the second half of 2024, everybody knew about it. There were memes, and like watching it take off was very fun. And I think that for how simple it is, having a game that is relatively, at least on the surface from what I've seen, since I haven't played either of these games myself, it seems so simple, yet it's so intriguing, and so that seems very captivating for Game of the Year. Just the fact that it was able to make it this far and get into actual Game of the Year listings.
It was very funny to watch.
Is that your vote, though?
My vote is that I'm torn, so
Okay,
pass.
we'll come back to you.
We'll come back.
All right,
All right.
Line.
How about I go first?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go first because I brought it and my vote is obvious. But I do want to take a few moments to talk about Balatro, because Balatro is a very good game for just eating about 2 weeks of your life.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of how you feel about repetitive content or roguelike type content or the endless runs type things, Balatro is an incredible way to buy for $5, install, and then wake up 2 weeks later wondering what happened and why you keep dreaming of jokers.
Your Steam libraries plus 35 hours.
Yeah, it's great for that. Though I will say that I did end up just stopping Balatro. I didn't finish it. I didn't beat it. It's not like other roguelites where I sort of exhausted the content. I just sort of faded away. And so with that and my just dedicated near 100% completion of Forbidden West and my desperate, dire need for the third game in the series, I must
Yes.
vote for Horizon Forbidden West.
Understandable.
All right, Line Arc Line, you want to do yours?
Yeah. What I have to say is that Balatro is proof that roguelikes may be my favorite genre in video games right
Shocker.
now. Have so much potential to be applied to so many different types of content. And I really appreciate that. That being said, its primary visual motif is Vegas style flashing lights and clowns that, like, I don't find clowns scary. I just find them boring as an aesthetic. And I don't think I can go too far with a game that features so many of them and thinks that they're so cool. So my vote will also be going for Horizon Forbidden West because I like how much my friends like it and it makes me want to try it.
All right. Carbon speed dating? Would you like to
Yeah,
give your say?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Horizon because I was kind of just sold very often with games just based on like an interesting artistic vision, and seeing, especially for the first game, a lot of the early concept art being translated so faithfully into such an epic style of game was impressive the first time, and then they just did it again
Yeah.
and in new ways that I hadn't. It's a very, in the best way possible, it's a very hard game to kind of, especially narratively and artistically, to predict. Like, they have a big wealth of places that they're drawing from, and it's very inspiring. Yeah, so I'm going to go with Horizon.
All right.
Very excited for the
Chanasaur,
third game.
You're up.
All right, I think I agree so much with what Carbon Speed Dating said about like the aesthetics and the it's actually a lot of the artists that I follow online worked on some of the concept art for the Horizon games, and seeing them be faithful to the concept art and the creature designs and the world aspects. Yeah, it's a game that I also am intrigued with and want to play, same as Leinarch Line said.
All right. Well, that leaves me last. I think I've maybe foreshadowed my vote a bit. It's Horizon Forbidden West. I do want to, talk about the good parts of Balatro a little bit, and I hope that we get the opportunity to. I think its strongest arguments are it was a huge splash in 2024. I think I heard it mentioned more than Horizon Forbidden West. It's a single developer who did the whole thing and is doing great. The fact that it can even share the stage with huge projects like Horizon Forbidden West is a huge feather in its cap. I just am more of the type of gamer to go towards Horizon Forbidden West style, and I think Horizon Forbidden West is a blessing to gamers. Like, it is something that can be used in history classes in the future to represent this time period. And Balatro, like I said, I played it. I maybe, found its false ending or found a way that I thought I was done with it. And and maybe that was my mistake. I'm more than happy to reinvest my time and revisit Balatro, but Horizon Forbidden West, I think, will be like Red Dead Redemption 2, one of the games that I'll remember for the rest of my life, and might be like approaching Soul Art level of connection there for me.
Wow. For those who are listening, we have a thing in this group where we like to talk about our soul arts, which is the pieces of art that we consider so close to defining not only how we think of ourselves.
I think so. Like, it's an identity piece. It's a piece that you'd like to share parts of your identity with that artistic creation.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like if I had Horcruxes, one of them would be my PlayStation 2 copy of Okami.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Yep. Yeah. My first copy of Dark Souls would be my Horcrux, and you can find me
Alright.
there.
Everyone around the circle, let's just top soul art go.
Yeah, or like
Oh.
Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. Like my first copy of Majora's Mask has parts
It's
of my soul
clearly
in it.
Majora's Mask for you. I don't know why you're even mentioning anything else.
Yeah.
Near Automata.
Oh, there you go. See?
Yep.
And that's part of the motivations for our discussions. All right, so that brings our voting to Horizon. Everybody agrees. Full sweep for Horizon. Congratulations, Horizon. Sorry, Bellaccio, we love to play you, but you're getting shuffled back into the deck this round. All
Good
right.
work.
Do you want to take a brief break? Do we want to do some honorable mentions? Maybe a small amount?
Ooh.
Maybe some worsties? Maybe some salsa? You have a nice
Ooh.
pico earlier? I had a mango salsa this week.
Oh, that's good. I really like sun-dried tomato, like roasted tomato salsa. It's real good. You should do it. You should eat it.
I do want to talk about salsas, but real quick before we do, I wanted to mention my experience with Far Cry 6.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
So on this edition of the Worsties, I want to return to a common concept of you being really excited for a game and then it letting you down in a big way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for that experience, I was very surprised that it was one of my favorite game franchises for a very long time, called Far Cry.
Oh.
And with Far Cry, I remember playing Far Cry 3 for the first time, which was my introduction to the series. And it was beautiful because it was simple, but the simplicity of the gameplay brought out so many wonderful emergent gameplay options. The shooting was tight, the movement was intuitive, and it was so fun to encounter the situations that I encountered in that game. And they kept going with Far Cry 4 and Far Cry 5, which added cooperative play. And I played each one with the Sunless here. And I often categorize how good a game is by how many clips that I've saved from recordings. And Far Cry remains my second highest number of clips recorded of moments that I want to remember, moments that I want to share with other people. The highest, of course, being PUBG.
Well, that's
Far Cry 6 was not this experience. The formula has grown dry, and the game was missing the heart, the simplicity, the fun that Far Cry 3 had originally brought it.
Were you set in real life Bolivia?
No, you're thinking of Tom Clancy's Racism Simulator.
Oh no. Well, was it
yes.
close enough to Bolivia that I could imagine myself there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Think Cuba.
Yeah. See, so I want to make clear I definitely want to do honorable mentions later before our finals. I kind of sprung this on everybody. It doesn't have to be worsties. It could be worsties or just a brief honorable mention. But because we're doing so well on time in this session, I think we can afford it. Does
Sure,
anyone
I
else
can-
have any ones they want to bring forward, just as a one of maybe three?
Yeah, I can go. The game that I would like to mention is the casting of Frank Stone, which is done by the same developers as the Until Dawn
Oh yeah, I heard of
and
that.
the Quarry game, which is a game that I brought last year, and I was so excited for this game when it was originally announced. I pre-ordered all that fun stuff, and the actual experience of the game was what was very disappointing. Like, it was one of those games where I went out of my way to play it on release, and it helped me understand why the other games worked because of its failings, though.
Oh wow.
So
So
it's a
informative.
it's a choose your own adventure narrative style game, where the entire idea for this, I don't know, studio, I guess, is that you are in your own horror movie and you get to be the horror movie protagonist and see if you can make it to the end, sort of thing.
Nice.
And this one was their first game where they were part of an existing franchise. So this is the Dead by Daylight franchise. And oh boy, that was probably a mistake. Not because they did a bad job, but because I got the impression that because they were working with an existing franchise, they got really caged in with what their narrative could be, to the point where you get to the end of the game, and I won't say what happens, but you get to the end of the game, and every choice you make is nothing. The entire
Aw.
flow chart. Imagine a big flow chart that gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then the last piece is one little square.
Wow, like
So
Mass
there's
Effect
not-
3.
not-
That's
yeah.
Mass
Yeah.
Effect 3 syndrome.
Yeah,
That's
there's
true,
nothing.
but you don't even get to pick your color.
Exactly, and there's
Oh,
nothing you
no.
can do, and especially given that the what's fun about specifically Until Dawn and the Quarry is you usually work with a fairly large cast of characters, and the quote unquote good ending for these games is, can you get all of these people, sometimes idiots, to the end? And Until Dawn, like, that was, and it's not a trivial thing to do, especially when you get later in the games. And this one had that potential. It's, they're working with like a very interesting idea. But then, especially like in the third act, it hit like, oh, we got to do all the lore for Dead by Daylight, which not only didn't make any sense to me, who I hadn't played any of the Dead by Daylight games, came out of left field, didn't work inside the narrative they had already crafted, and reduced every choice in the game to nothing. Nothing mattered. It was very disappointing.
Aw, that's sad.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
so I was expecting to bring that game. Like, when I bought it, I was expecting that to be the game I bring to this.
And
I was
yet-
like, oh, they've been so good, and the movie's coming out soon that I'm really excited about for Until Dawn, and I'll be like there on opening night for that. Like, I loved those games, so I was very disappointed with this, and I hope it's not. I haven't lost hope in the studio or anything. I'll be probably still pre-ordering their next game because I still like the niche they've carved for themselves, but I hope that they stick to working with their own stories in the future. I think that would really benefit them.
yeah. Well,
Mhm.
it made for great worsties.
It was a very disappointing experience. It was my game that I was going to be my Halloween game, and it
All
very
right.
disappointing experience.
Is there any other worsties entries or maybe an honorable
Ye-
mention?
Yes, I have two I would like to bring up, but I'll be brief.
Okay.
First, under the worsties label is my beloved and much played, and in fact previously came on the besties, Destiny 2.
I was going to bring that
Oh.
one.
Glorious, one of a kind experience that is still somehow going. It it finished strong. It really did. It really stuck the landing of a 10-year franchise
I
and
know.
story.
It's so good.
Like, what an incredible achievement.
I cried.
And yeah, that cried at the story. It was beautiful. It was amazing. It was so much fun. It was everything I wanted. And then they just like fired a ton of people that worked on it. Drastically lowered the quality of the follow-up stuff. And proceeded to just parade around its shambling corpse instead of moving on to something new or a sequel or doing anything with it. And so that's why it's in my worsties, because they finally fired enough people, including some people that I personally know, that I couldn't play it anymore, and that is a huge bummer. But on a positive note, I have an honorable mention. I want to mention another Crab's Treasure.
Yay!
Oh,
Yeah.
heck yeah.
Quite possibly the best non-FromSoft Souls-like, at least in close contention with Lies of P. An incredible introduction to the Souls-like genre, which is, punishing checkpoint-based third-person action-adventure type stuff. But in this, you're a cute crab who gets caught up in essentially a tax scam and desperately wants to buy your house back, only to realize that maybe the house was the friends we made along the way.
Remember the
Aw.
house was the friends we made
or-
along the way.
Or it's the real house that you do in fact get.
Yeah,
Maybe.
he's a
So
hermit
maybe you
crab.
don't.
It's very cute. It's also
It's-
a really great Souls-like with,
Yep.
a different tone, but a lot of great economic commentary for specifically Silicon Valley and California.
Yeah,
And
it's-
Oh, sorry. Do you have another honorable mention you want to do, or?
No, go for it.
Okay. I specifically didn't bring any worsties this year because I wanted to bring 3 honorable mentions, but I will go through them very quickly.
You could
Um,
also save them for the next episode. You could just do.
If we want to.
Yeah, we'll get more time on an honorable mentions next episode.
Okay. In
I
that
think
case,
that's great.
maybe. I don't know. I'm happy to talk about stuff now too, but
For sure.
I've got an honorable mention that I'm saving.
okay. Maybe I'll talk about one of them and then save the other 2.
Sounds like a plan.
But one of them, which is a game that I haven't really seen many people talk about very much, is Chants of Sonar.
Yes.
Yes, and it is a sort of puzzle learning game where you're slowly piecing together a language, or actually what turns into several languages, as you complete this quest and journey up through this big tower. And I just love language learning as a game mechanic. I think that is so, so cool. I'm always trying to decipher any sort of in-game languages when they pop up, even if it's not part of the actual game. But this one truly gamifies language learning. It's like playing Duolingo, but for fake languages.
Yeah. It's very reminiscent of Tunic parts, Edlet,
Mhm.
and the biblical allusion to the Tower of Babel. I think is
Yes.
pretty clear.
Yeah. But a thing that I liked about it that I didn't see going in was that the languages get more complex as you go through the different levels. Like, there will be some that have completely different grammatical structures than previous ones, or ones that have really confusing parts of speech that you now have to navigate around and figure out what the heck is going on. And it all, without giving too much away, the story has elements of trying to fix the communication in this world and make it so that people can actually understand one another and could perhaps live in harmony if they just understood what each other were talking about. But it's a game that made me take notes. It's also really fun to watch friends play if you've already played it before, even though you know what the language is. It's fun to watch people try to piece it together. Also, you can pet the cats.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great. So because it was brought up, and I don't want to re-bring it up, well, maybe I will next episode, but one of them is Destiny 2. Destiny 2, I didn't play any of the stuff afterwards, and I wasn't as connected to the firings after, but if you just let it end with its main quest ending, I probably spent 2.5 months grinding up a huge amount of content before the final shape dropped. And when that happened, it was a full catharsis, emotional event for me. Destiny 2 was with me during some of my worst times in my life, and to see it land with such an emotionally impactful ending, I just bawled. I just cried for an hour. It was so good. One of the slickest shooters you ever play. One of the best multiplayer experiences I think you'll ever play once you get into it. Both for raiding and just PvP. And I still love that world. It really has grown on me over the time that I've been playing it. I do think parts of it were too expensive at times. But they really did something there. and I think that deserves to be remembered as part of 2024. Part of me regrets basically forgetting to bring it as a besties entry and bring Magic the Gathering instead. But like Destiny 2 took over my gaming time for like 3 months straight last year. And I just it was such a singular event. I think I like locked it away in a vault in my memory and didn't remember. All right. Well, if that's it for everybody, I think we can move on to our final round. Which is which will be Shaunosaur bringing Dredge and Carbon Speed Dating, who has Life is Strange Before the Storm. All right. Shaunosaur, go ahead and remind us, what is Dredge?
Dredge is an extremely cute and cozy game about fishing. You get to fish up some very cute little fish, and it's all cozy, warm, happy vibes the whole time. Definitely no monsters, definitely nothing to worry about. You can just fish in the dark, it's fine.
Yeah, and slowly your sanity will twist.
It just makes the fish more cute.
That's right.
Yeah.
They're more
With-
exotic.
It gives them extra eyes, it's fine. Just extra cute big eyes.
Mm-hmm. All right, Carbon Speed Dating, why don't you introduce us to Life is Strange Before the Storm?
Yeah, so Life is Strange Before the Storm is a prequel to the original Life is Strange game. And in this game, you play as a side character slash main love interest, depending on how you play Life is Strange, of the original game. And it's such a magnificent game because it makes me not only appreciate the original game more, but also it feels so natural that it feels like it should have been the first game they made, like in terms of narrative. Like it very often with prequels, you can always get you get locked into this section where like, how do I make the prequel work if we already kind of know where things are going and like, oh, there's no real danger, I know this character is going to survive or something. And the game felt so organic and marvelous that if someone were to play Life is Strange, might still want to play it kind of in release order. But it's not a bad place to start either. Like, the prequel makes me appreciate the original characters more, and also kind of just really enjoy the relationship that they build with a character that you never actually get to meet in the original Life is Strange. And yeah, so I had a marvelous time playing it. It had taken me a long time to get to, and it was a very rewarding experience.
All right, great. Well, so Shaunosaur, why don't you tell us about the finer points of Dredge and why you think it deserves to be Game of the Year, or why it was your Game of the Year?
Dredge, like I mentioned with both it and Pentiment before, is a game that I was thinking about for weeks and months after finishing it. Like, I played the DLC when it came out, and there's a new one that just came out recently that I need to play as well. And it's such an interesting take on the genre of fishing game. I don't think, or at least so far as I know, that somebody has made such a beautiful little fishing game with such fun little horrors in it. The fishing mechanic is actually very good and very fun. The boat mechanic is very good and very fun. Just like, I don't know, steering this weird little boat around these oddly shapen islands to catch big fish and avoid monsters. It's very charming, and it has an overarching mystery and plot to it, and each of the island chains that you go to have different little subplots that kind of all collect together into one bigger plot near the end. But I was actually caught off guard by the mystery of the game. I enjoyed that quite a bit, and yeah, it has good what's it called, like organizing your backpack kind of mechanics. There's a word for games that have that, but like you have to Tetris your ship and find ways to store all of the fish while also storing all of your fishing rods and all of the engines to make your ship go extremely fast, and that cursed ring that you found that gives you good luck maybe. But yeah, it's a charming little game. I am just so shocked that I haven't seen people do a Eldritch fishing simulator before. And as a lover of cozy games and horror games, this one is very dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say it's a great like use of time in gaming. Like you feel like the progress really well. It doesn't feel too large or too small. Um, yeah, it's the vibes. It just has such good vibes.
Yeah, it also has a very nice or very satisfying like skill creep to it, because at the beginning of the game, from dawn till dusk, you can barely go the length of the starting cove before you have to go back to your harbor and sell your fish and bunk for the night. But by the end of the game, your boat is so fast and so strong that you're just like whizzing from corner to corner of the map like it's nobody's problem, and you're staying up all through the night just like chasing the monsters around because your ship is faster than they are. It's so satisfying once you get to the point of just no one can catch me, there are no rules.
Yeah. All right. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about Life is Strange?
Yeah, so the Life is Strange games are a bit notorious, like in a good way, for, I would argue, kind of making the quote unquote walking sim into like kind of the biggest, like the big kind of genre that we see now. You know, there's other games too, you know, Edith Finch and stuff, but it was my introduction to the genre. And it being kind of a low key gaming experience was also really great for sharing with people. Especially folks that don't normally play a lot of video games like I do, and the fact that I was able to finish in maybe 2 or 3 sessions made it very accessible to me. The story's great. I remember when the original Life is Strange came out, the openness of the LGBTQ being such a core to the narratives was still kind of new, and I appreciate that they have only dove into it even deeper with this one. Exploring relationship dynamics, very cute, endlessly cute scenes. There are a bunch of theater kids with over the top theater kid moments, and it's very sweet. Yeah, so I'd highly recommend it for anyone that is interested in narrative games. It's up there with, you know, the Telltale games in terms of choice, because your choice does matter in terms of the narrative and the kind of person you are. It's not like a good or bad. You don't get like good or bad endings, arguably, so much as how much you want to interact with the people around you, and you can therefore create large changes in their stories.
Yeah.
Nice.
How does it stack up compared to the other Life is Strange games? Like I've played some of the other ones.
Yeah, so the only Life is Strange game I haven't played is the most recent one that just came out, which is Double Exposure. So internally, Life is Strange, there's Life is Strange 1, which is the original, then Life is Strange 2, which is about totally separate characters, Life is Strange 3, which is Life is Strange True Colors, which I believe I brought a year or two back,
Yeah.
which is also about different characters and takes place in like a pseudo Colorado town. And then we get the prequel, which is this one, Life is Strange Before the Storm, or the original Life is Strange, and then the newest Life is Strange Double Exposure that came out. I would argue that it's my favorite of the bunch. I think that the first Life is Strange will always have like a special place in my heart, just because there were a lot of really impactful moments in that game, but it was kind of held back because the main character wasn't the best. I mean, she is like 15 or something in the game, and she makes a lot of choices that feel like choices that you would, when you're a self-important 15-year-old, you would make. But it kind of held back from me being able to really enjoy what's happening narratively. But in the Before the Storm takes place from the side character's perspective of Chloe, who's the best. She has her own problems, but she's great. And it also gives you a lot of opportunities to interact with a larger cast of characters. So a lot of great moments in that one as well. Made me cry, but such is life.
Yeah, I remember I have never played the Life is Strange games, but I've watched playthroughs of a couple of them.
Yeah.
I remember in the first one, like, one of the big game mechanics is that the main character has like a special power that
save scumming. Her power is save scumming.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I wasn't sure. If
Which is
change
great.
the
No, no,
future or
from- like,
change
from
the
a-
future, but yeah,
Yeah.
things coming.
From a narrative perspective, the single best mechanic I've ever seen in a narrative game. Because it gives
Absolutely.
you
Very
not
good
only
for
an
video game.
opportunity to explore different choices,
Mhm.
but it actually you need that for plenty of the narratives to like get information from people. But also, it's not like endless save scumming. Like you only get like I don't know 15 seconds or something.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, interestingly enough, Life is Strange Before the Storm is the only one in the series so far that the main character, the characters have no notable supernatural power. There's maybe something kind of happening in Before the Storm, maybe if you read into it with supernatural powers, but Chloe can't do any of that. So I was very impressed to see that didn't hold it back narratively. Like it still felt like a great experience to play, even when I wasn't. You can't save scum it, but I never felt the need to either.
Nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to open it up for a naming of the round and general discussion leading into voting. This one is really, really hard for me. I actually don't know which one
People
I'm
are
gonna go with.
strange.
Yeah,
That's
Strange
my no
Fish?
no.
Strange
I
Fish.
no,
was
I
going to
just-
say
Right,
Trouble
right.
on the Horizon.
There you
Ooh,
go.
that's good. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, especially given that it's a prequel and literally for Life is Strange, the narrative is that the main character's main relationship is the girl who's missing in the main game.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
Trouble on the Horizon is great because
Yeah.
the story takes place, I think, all of 2 weeks before main narrative happens. So I like that.
there are three things that Wise Man fears: a storm at sea.
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's good too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's big part of the narrative. Yeah, I think that works. I like both of those.
Yep. I like all of these.
Yeah, I mean, I need some persuasion on Life is Strange.
Oh, I
mean-
can. Okay.
Yeah,
If
I
you
want
want-
to know
I
what
mean-
makes it stand out, like to you specifically, from the other Life is Strange games more.
So in particular, the characters are all so much like it's not to say that the original had bad characters, but the way that you interact with there's one scene in particular that I like to come to for Life is Strange Before the Storm, where especially if you're a woman who was ever a teenager, which there's some of those out there.
Mhm.
The way that she interacts with a lot of the other characters feels very familiar in interesting ways. So there's one character in particular that you encounter. There's this overly affectionate guy who's very much the free hugs kind of guy.
Uh-huh.
And he makes me so uncomfortable.
Yep.
But also, and that's part of the narrative, but also if I had played this game and had been that age when it came out, I think my perception on this character would have been different. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting to see how like living life and seeing these kind of people come in, like it's very authentic. I guess that's kind of what I'm going for. A lot of the interactions you have feel very authentic.
Okay, because that I think sets it above the first Life is Strange, because that was part of my personal quip with it, and maybe why I didn't play the rest of the games, was there were some characters who just their choices just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And like some of them were just like, oh yeah, you mean the teacher didn't ask this kid about this very serious problem?
Yeah,
Like-
I mean, I think that if you felt that way about the first Life is Strange Before the Storm is great. Is probably the best of the. If I were to rate the games, it would probably go Before the Storm, original Life is Strange, True Colors, and then Life is Strange 2. And Life is Strange 2 is not a bad game, but it had a lot more frustration in it. Of
Mhm.
moments where it's like
Mm.
none of those options are things I want to do, like, but the game still forces you to do it. So one of the experiences I had was I walk up to a door, the dog wants to go out. I literally turned to my sister as we were playing and I went, no, I'm not going to let the dog out. There's like cougars and stuff.
Yeah.
And the game won't let you proceed with doing that. Like
Aw.
you have to let the dog out and like things happen as a result of that, even though I didn't want to do that. So
Mhm.
like it felt very restrictive. And then Before the Storm, they did a lot of great like, oh no, that's actually perfectly reasonable with the information she has. That makes perfect sense why she's behaving the way she's behaving, and the ways that you can kind of carve Chloe's character based on your decisions are very fun.
Nice. Yeah, thank you. Those are all good points for very good writing.
Yeah. All right. What do you think, Sunless?
Let's see. Dredge and Life is Strange. I think I think I have to go on sort of impact vibes on this one. Well, more specifically, I think I'm going to give it to Dredge personally, because Dredge is it's a new IP. Because it's a new game and it's a new kind of game. Like you said, there hasn't been a lot of Eldritch fishing games. Though I've seen the idea floated around on the internet for several years. It has never come to fruition until Dredge, and that's really cool and that's really impressive. And it's just ultimately it's a game I'm more likely to play, and it's just a newer game. Just a new kind of game and a new IP. So I have to give it to Dredge.
What do you think, Line Arc Line?
This is a different sort of round because I've played Dredge and I got a decent way into it before realizing that I didn't like some parts of it. I'm going to start with, I'm going to follow up with the parts that I do like about Dredge. But for the parts that I kind of scared me off of it is the days are so short. And I understand that it's important to make the game, balanced and flow in the way that they intend. But Dredge is a game that's full of interruptions in what you're doing. And that I found very irritating and stopped me from playing the game altogether. I would have liked to see a little more of the aesthetic vibe that Dredge brings, rather than the hopelessness of the narrative themes. That being said, the aesthetic is, they know how to market to me. The Dredge is so, I think if someone were to see the Dredge trailer, they would show it to me just because they're like, perfect. I thought of Will while watching this.
If memory serves, I think I got Dredge for you for like your birthday or something, because I had that exact thought.
Yeah. And to be fair, like I still want to go back and play Dredge. Just watching this trailer and hearing about it and seeing other people play the parts that I have not seen is alluring. But so often in Dredge, I got stuck doing tasks that filled up my entire day and I felt were very necessary or difficult to ignore, and the game just ground to a halt with all the stuff I felt like I had to do, and I kind of don't appreciate that. And on top of that, I know how little I see relatable writing in media these days. So to see a game entirely based on writing that is truly relatable and genuine, that's very attractive in a product for me. So I think my vote here is going to go for Life is Strange. Here's the Storm, Before the Storm. And Life is Strange has a history of portraying deep characters with deep positives and deep flaws, and that's hard to ignore in a round like this. So yeah, Life is Strange.
A quick tip for you, Will. I'm fully respecting your vote, but for just to help you enjoy Dredge perhaps a bit more,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to stay out at night. The days are short, so that you
Yeah,
have to stay out at
that's
night.
fair.
And there are some things that you can only do once you start to be a little bit crazy. Like, most of the
Mm,
plot can only be accessed if you're a little bit crazy.
I see.
Well, maybe not most of the plot, but some key clues for the ending can only be found if you're crazy.
I see. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Do you
Hmm?
want to vote for yours?
Yes, I'm going to stick by my guns and vote for Dredge. Yeah, it was just very impactful for me this year and very much like because sometimes I do also get stuck on games like once there's that sort of sharp difficulty spike and I put it down for a couple of weeks, I never pick it back up. And I'm really glad that I didn't do that with Dredge and got through it and just like enjoyed the ride and enjoyed the difficulty of different parts of it. Um, because yeah, it just felt like a very well-paced game for me personally. For Life is Strange though, I do feel like this one might be the one that I should start with if I do get back into playing the Life is Strange games, because it does seem like it's like I love the idea of the relatable writing, and even if there's no deliberate magical powers in it, from watching the playthrough that we're watching now on screen, yeah, this seems like a fun and neat little narrative game. So, but my vote
Yeah,
is for Dredge. What was
especially
that?
for the theater kids, especially for the theater kids out there. There's a main plot narrative where they're putting on a performance of the Tempest, and
Oh,
yeah, there's a lot of theater kid shenanigans.
yay!
Nice.
Yeah, honestly, like every game that Carbon Speed Dating brings to Besties, I put on my wish list immediately afterwards. So,
I love me some good narrative games, and for the
yeah.
longest time, life is oh, so I'll go with Life is Strange as well. But what I was gonna say was that for the longest time, the Life is Strange games were some of the most like reliable narrative games that I could find. Like I I I always know I'm gonna have a good time with them, and for the longest time, it's still a fairly small corner of gaming, and it's still great to see them putting out games. So I'm looking forward to playing Double Exposure next.
Yeah. This is a very, very difficult one for me. Um, both have really strong arguments for them, but also some kind of blemishes or flaws that are difficult for me to go over. I think the one that for me made the most impact in 2024 was Dredge. But Life is Strange is so captivating in its story and also commentary on just youth culture, especially in the regions that it deals with. Um, Concepts of depression and like rebellion and punk rock themes are particularly appealing to me, but it also does remind me of like kind of the cringe aspect of youth and like being an actual
Sure.
teenager going to like concerts
That's
and
the
doing stupid
authentic.
shit.
Yeah, I mean that's the point, though. I
And
think
drugs.
is like
Yeah.
that authentic experience of I am cringe, but I am free. In terms of
Yes.
yeah, I also recognize that I probably was kind of insufferable to be around when I was also 15.
Yeah. I
So
just it's a really, really hard. I'm genuinely split. I've heard arguments on both sides. Yeah, I think I think I have to go with Life is Strange here for impact. And theme, just like I always skew towards more philosophical themes that are, I guess, real or lessons that can be learned from kids while they're playing individual titles and like genuine things that you're improved in your life after playing them. And I've always felt that way about Life is Strange is I get emotional intelligence, I get lessons and perspectives. The thing that is kind of holding it back though is part of me thinks that I would like it as a movie or as a TV show or as a book. A lot of playing Life is Strange for me is kind of making sure I don't miss everything in the room when the little chalk drawings come up. And like
sure.
in a way, like I as a gamer, I think the aspect of Dredge that is addictive to me is like filling out your Pokedex, getting all of the mystery things in a almost Inscription-esque way, and like just full completing the game. And I love fishing games. I have realistic fishing games that I buy. But yeah, this one is really, really hard for me. I think the edge is going to go to Life is Strange just because of my overall idealism. But this one was very, very close.
And I will say that at least partly in Life is Strange's defense for what you said, because I don't disagree with it, but also I think that part of the appeal of the walking sim sort of setting is that, yes, you could experience this as a book or as a movie, probably fine, but there's something to be said about like you going out of your way to, or you being there for those reveals and discovering it yourself and like opening the cabinet that has like a secret behind it. Like there are really great moments of just like something about you doing it adds something to it. And I think that's what games can really bring to a genre.
Yeah, like you can't just like zone out and do something else with it on in the background because you're the one doing the thing.
Yeah, and it does, I mean, it's very engaging, you know, like that's a lot of the value that I find in writing games or story-based games is how I'm reacting to them at the age that I am when I play them. And
I will say it's a great empathy game.
yeah,
If you want to understand and empathize with not only yourself from when you were younger, but also just younger people and other kinds of people, I think it's a great game for that. All the games have been doing great lessons in empathy.
Yeah, I do want to praise Dredge though, as it is the one that won't be continuing into the round. As like, I think Dredge is better for my overall mental health, in the sense that like it gives me the energy and emotions and like kind of grind that I really crave out of video games as a genre that I can't get in other art forms or media, because it is such a like tactile, you know, driving the boat and making sure you get it right and drifting the boat and, you know, keeping track of all the crab cages that you put down before. And like, that's just classic gaming. And I love that feeling and experience of just getting into something that it does have a little bit of a grind, but that's why you're there for it.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So, where's the scoring sit?
Scoring is for Life is Strange.
Life is Strange by 1.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh. I guess that's good that we have odd numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
This one is hard. All right. Well, that brings it to Life is Strange as the winner. Let's check our brackets again. All right. Looking forward to our next episode, which will be hotly contested. We have Pentiment 2 going against Helldivers 2. We have Horizon Forbidden West against Life is Strange Before the Storm. And that should be full of just fantastic, spicy conversations all around.
And someday we'll talk about the salsa too.
Yes.
That'll be.
I really
next time,
meant to get to the salsa this
probably?
episode, but
Right. It's a real
Yeah.
shame that we didn't actually discuss many of the salsas.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think we'll wrap this up next time, and then and then we'll get to the heart of it.
Yeah. I'm sure our audience will understand. All right. Well, that brings it to the end of episode 2. Thank you guys for sticking with us, those that did, and look forward to episode 3. All right.
Yay.
Peace. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.